1 2 check 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 1 check 1 2 check check. Check 1 2 check. Check 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 3.
Testing, testing, testing. Okay. Hey guys, we're going to get rolling. I know that there's still some traffic and people are still rolling in, but we're going to get started so that we can get John enough time to do his magic. There is still food over here. If anybody is hungry, feel free to grab. There is still mimosas at the front, and there is still a coffee station in the back. So feel free to grab what you need. How many of you, this is your first time ever coming to one of these panels? Good to see the newbies. Welcome. Let me just give you a very quick rundown of what our platform is all about. If I didn't get a chance to meet you, John, he's hooking you up. Cool. My name is Don Hill. I'm the founder of Tampa Bay Real Producers. So hey KJ. I know. I've been practicing. We built this platform back in 2018 locally here in the Tampa Bay market. If you're not familiar, Real Producers is part of a national franchise. There are about 140 RP markets all over the country representing the top real estate agents all over the United States. To be in the top, what we would call a real producer in this market, represents a top 500 producing real estate agent in Tampa Bay. And what do we base that on? We base that simply on MLS sales volume. Every year we look at the new list of the top 500 producers, and those are the individuals who get featured in the Tampa Bay Real Producer magazine for free. We do not charge agents to be, it's not a pay-to-play model to be in the program. How many of you have ever seen the magazine before and know what I'm talking about? All right, awesome. So that comes out every month. Again, the agents that are featured in that are top 500 producers in order to be featured, which means that they would have done over $13 million or more in volume, in sales volume, last year to be featured into the publication. We also, as part of our platform, host about 40 events a year, similar to the one you're at right now. This is an educational panel series that we've been hosting here at Whiskey Cake for well over a year and a half now. I want to thank Whiskey Cake for letting us use their venue. We can give them a quick round of applause. They've always been a great partner and very helpful in many ways in setting up all the food and the spread and allowing us to use this venue, which has worked well for us. So we appreciate them, and of course you all are invited to stay for lunch when we finish up today and hang out a little bit and network with each other. So we do this every single month on the third Thursday. This is the only event that we run that is open for any real estate agent to come to. So it's an open invite for you to invite any of your favorite agents to attend with you that you think could benefit their business. If you go on our website, which is TampaBayRealProducers.com, and look at our events tab, you'll see all of the topics that we did this year in 2024. And very soon, probably by the end of November, you'll see all of next year's topics listed for 2025. So every month we'll have a new topic, and you guys, of course, can RSVP right through the website to be able to put them in your calendar. Today is a little bit of a special day because we normally, if you've been here before, know that we have usually 3 or 4 top producing agents up on a panel. I generally moderate that panel, and we go through for an hour a bunch of questions, just peppering them on their brain and what we can get from them. Today we have a special guest speaker, though, that I'm going to introduce in just a few minutes, who travels all over, I think global, not just the country, travels globally with this message, and I'll introduce him in just a few minutes, and I think you're going to really enjoy it. Hopefully you have a notebook ready, because I know he has some great stuff for you to deliver. But back to our platform briefly, we have partners, what we call preferred partners, that make this platform possible. Like I said earlier, since we don't charge real estate agents to be featured in our platform, we don't generate really revenue through those relationships with our real estate agents. We just add value, we hope, to their business. Ultimately, without our partners, we wouldn't exist. And it's because of the partners that we can put events on like this. We also have other bigger scale type events that we do throughout the year. In fact, you'll hear me promote it maybe later today. But we do have a golf tournament that we're excited about coming up on November 4th. It's going to be at Tampa Palms, if you're familiar with that course. It's a gorgeous course, and we would love you guys to participate in that. So we have a QR code that'll be coming around the room a little bit later, and so there is a golf tournament where we will have a silent auction, by the way, to help raise some funds for the victims of the storms, Helene and Milton, that we just went through here over the last couple of weeks. And so there will be some cause for that. In fact, when that QR code comes today, I'll mention it later. If you're interested or you'd like to figure out a way that you can help with the victims, you can even donate through that QR code. And it's a pretty cool setup that we have, because it allows you not just to donate to one particular organization, which is called Any Gives, but it also has like the ability to donate through brokerages. We have relationships with multiple different real estate brokerages in the area, and you can donate through that brokerage's name if you would like to do that. So you'll see that when it comes around and a little bit later on. Let me just go ahead and take a minute, though, to introduce you to a couple of the sponsors for this particular series that make this event possible, because they support this series financially and, of course, through their attendance, and help us in growing, our brand. So let me first bring up, where'd she go? Margot. There you are in your pink suit. Okay. Margot with Home Team Inspections. I wanted you to say hello, and you can at least hear a quick word. There you go, Margot.
I think he keeps me around simply because whenever I speak, I always end up praising him for the great job that he does here. And it is. I mean, look at all of us here today. And we have all gone through our second hurricane. And unfortunately, there was a lot more damage. But here we are because we never give up. Okay? I mean, that's one thing I can always say about realtors, is that you are always moving ahead and working, and I have to congratulate you for that. I've come up with something new. I have never told people before. We bought the franchise 5.5 years ago, but I never told anybody I had been in real estate, because I didn't know what was going to happen, and I was very new, and I was first understanding home inspections. But I lived in Costa Rica for 8 years, and I was very involved down there with real estate. I ended up partnering with 2 of my good friends at Keller Williams in Atlanta. and we worked together, and I had like 20 listings, and I did a newsletter once a month to a client list that talked about what was happening there. So I say that because I came up with something a little bit different, and I'll hopefully be going around to offices. But I've turned around the way you talk to clients. Okay, I have put together a way that probably guarantees you, if you're looking for listings in competition, that you end up getting a listing because you approach it from a totally different way. So if anybody's interested, I'd love to explain it to you. And it's interesting. The reason I'm telling you this is because it's going to resonate very well when you hear how this guy talks about how to work with your clients. And that is first and foremost, instead of focusing on yourself, you look at what's happening with your clients, and therefore you focus on your clients. So I think we're in for a very interesting period today. Thank you. And I have that going. I'm surprised.
Thank you, Margot. And today's topic is all about building loyalty with your clients. Let me introduce you to one of our finance partners, Frank Cotto. They call him Frank the Bank, not to be confused with Frank the Tank. Frank, of course, is full of energy as always, and always has amazing programs actually for agents as well. So Frank, I'll have you come up and say a quick hello.
All right, guys, Frank the Bank, it's time to wake up here. I slept in a little bit this morning, so I have extra energy. And I got cafe con leche. 20 years in business here, Tampa Bay. We are a specialty lender. We are a wholesale lender. I will give you a promise right now. If I don't have the program, you're wasting your freaking time. I am dead serious. If you bring a loan to us and we can't do it, you're wasting your time because I'm a hard money lender as well. So if I can't do your loan through all of the other hundreds and hundreds of programs we have, I'm going to do it privately. We just funded $400,000 of private money loans this week alone. We're funding one tomorrow for $150,000 for a single wide mobile home for a wonderful family who can't qualify for 6 months because of a bankruptcy. So what do? We wrote them a quick bridge loan. We got them into the property, and we're going to refinance them in 6 months and take care of them and put them in a nice FHA loan. We got voted best of the best again last year by Tampa Bay Times. Yay! My team is here, Mateo, Edis, Anita, and Javier. You'll see on your tables, we are the pen sponsors today, right? We hooked up. Make sure you guys had something to write with. That was a fun little last-minute thing. But please click on the little QR code on the event flyer on your table. I have never in 23 years in business had to reschedule the same event 3 times. But then again, I've never had 2 bullshit hurricanes come through within 3 weeks. So we all learned a lot from this. One is called rescheduling and how that works. But make sure you go to this one. I promise you, rain, snow, sleet, or hail, we are having this freaking event at Pro if they are open next Thursday from 12 to 2, and you'll get some free tacos. Everybody's talking hurricanes and hurricane products. What is out there? Number one, if you find me on Instagram, Frank the Bank Cotto, or Facebook, or MySpace, or whatever you guys use, you will see educational videos every single day. This last week, I have focused on nothing but hurricane relief videos. What can your people do? And my favorite video was released last night and reposted again today. It is the 3 steps for homeowners impacted by the hurricanes. There are 3 things that homeowners can do, and I go through all 3 options for them. Option number 1. File a forbearance. If you're having any mortgage payment issues, call your company right now and file a forbearance. Later today, I'm going to put out a video talking more about forbearances and how it works, because people don't know you still have to save the money for your escrow account. They are not going to take your escrow money in most cases, so you need to put it in your bank, and you need to save it so you don't have a deficiency in 3 or 4 months. And then they're going to evaluate you in 3 months to see how you're doing. It's not a forbearance forever, but it's a great first step that all your borrowers can do. How can you add value to your clients? Call them up and give them this advice. Where do you get the information? Go to Frank the Bank on Instagram or Facebook, and I'll tell you what to tell your clients. Number 2, 203H loans. This is an FHA product that most of us don't know about, and that's good, because we shouldn't know about this, because you can only do it after your freaking community has gotten wiped out by a hurricane. So if you were displaced, meaning you can't live in your home, I don't care if you're a renter or a homeowner, this is a 100% financing from FHA. Get the seller to cover closing costs. It's practically no money out of pocket. And the best part about it is if you're a homeowner and you have a mortgage that you're in forbearance on or you can't afford to pay, we are going to not count that payment in your debt ratio. So this truly allows people who are displaced to go from one house to the other. Now, what if you're a renter? you are still qualified. All you have to do is prove that you are displaced from your place of rent. This has happened to thousands of people. We can create homes for them. We can help them out through this product. It is a standard FHA product. We still go down to lower credit scores than any other lender, so we can help your guys out. It's called 203H. You don't need to be the expert. Just send them over to us. We'll take care of it. By the way, on all my posts, I have my personal cell phone number and a contact link. Lastly, renovation loans. There are people who don't need to move, who want to stay in their homes. And maybe they made some mistakes when it came to their replacement cost, or made some mistakes on their insurance policy, or didn't have flood, and it's all going to fall on them, and they just can't afford it. We can do renovation loans, not just the FHA one, but you can do it on conventional as well, even on investment properties. I have places over on the beach. It sucks. We're not getting help from anybody because they're investments, and we shouldn't. It should help the people who have primary residences. But what can we do? We can use renovation loans and finance all of these renovations. It's not a cash out loan where you have to use your existing value. We can use a future value on a renovation loan. So go to Frank the Bank on Instagram and Facebook, Lincoln Lending Group to find my guys. You can go to 813 Mortgage and pick any of my amazing originators, and we'll help you on all these products. Like and share us and follow us on Instagram. Thank you.
After I stuff my face. Frank is a wealth of knowledge, I will say, and he barely ever takes a breath. So if you hear him speak, it's definitely a show, and he's full of entertainment for sure. Is Ed here with Magnum? Did I miss you guys? Magnum at all? Okay, I wasn't sure. Magnum Roofing and Restoration is one of our partners. I didn't see Ed in the house, but they are supporting our platform. I want to give them a shout out real quick. And then Cameron with Fidelity. Come on up, Cameron. Cameron with Fidelity National Home Warranty. Was one of our partners actually with a previous company, and now is representing his brand with Fidelity. Let me have you say hello, Cameron.
Thanks a lot, guys. Once again, Cameron Foster with Fidelity National Home Warranty. We are one of the largest warranty companies in the nation. You can check us out at homewarranty.com. To separate us from the other competitors in the market, you want to look at our limits of liability. For example, on air conditioning, we don't have an age limit. We don't have a unit limit, so you can have 1 or 10. Under our standard plan, they would be covered. So check us out at homewarranty.com. Cameron Foster, thanks.
You didn't give me enough time to eat, man. It's all good. All right. All right, one more before we get rolling here, and that is, of course, one of our OGs. I call them as a partner from the get-go, a milestone title. We're going to have the boss up here today. Are we going to... All right, come on up, KJ, CJ, whatever you want to call yourself today, KJ.
Wow, he practiced that because he normally gets it CJ, but that's okay. I'm KJ Workman with Milestone Title. I am part of the agent success team. We normally see Lori and Melvin up here, but it's their birthdays, and they had this cruise booked, and yes, total slackers. They were working their butts off getting resources to people that were affected by this hurricane. Lori was literally driving around with trunks full of resources collected from agents and other people in the industry, driving them over to Pinellas. She was exhausted, and she didn't even want to go on this cruise. And we were like, get your butt on the cruise, go relax, come back fully charged. So that said, if you do work with Lori or Melvin on any deals and you need help while they're gone, I'm available. I was running net sheets for them last night. We work as a team together to support you guys as agents. So since we're bringing up the fact of net sheets, I want you to know on your table you have a card, my business card with a QR code on the back. We love our QR codes. Woo! And that will take you directly to our NetSheet app. NetSheet app is branded for Milestone, but it can be branded for you as well. This is a NetSheet app that Tom Ferry himself has said, the calculator to end all calculators. It is a magnificent tool if you are a realtor. Highly recommend going on. You have a card like this, scan the code, and then the NetSheet app will be the first button on that code. Download it, use it. I have agents that live in that app. Literally, we can see when you're in it. She literally never gets off of it. She's running that many net sheets. So use that to your advantage. Speaking of other technologies, normally Melvin is our go-to speaker for talking about tech and resources. He's also having a birthday on a cruise right now, but he is normally the one to talk about everything that we offer. If you have any need in your business for technology resources, you want some special apps, you want the things that you hear other people using and you don't know how to use it, book some time with us. We will come in and basically lay out the buffet of options that we have, and we'll say, well, which one of these works for you in your business? And we'll get you plugged in and ready to go. We don't have any current events because all of our events are being postponed due to the hurricane. So as those event information comes out, we will let everybody know, like, hey, we have these things. We do often support our communities and our agents in whatever they're doing. So as those things change, you'll hear more about what we got going on. And then I wrote notes down. That's why I have my phone up here. I'm not just up here texting, hanging out on Snapchat. Let's see. And then, speaking of the hurricane, we are still offering resources. So if you are in an affected community or you know of people that are still being affected, please reach out and let us know. We have people, resources, time, whatever it is that you need, we're there for you. And we work from a servant's heart like we all do in our community. So if there's still people affected, I know everyone gets on that bandwagon right after the hurricane, right after a disaster. As time goes by, people still need things. Reach out to us, let us know. We have a big footprint in Tampa, so let us know how we can help. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, KJ. The best workman in town. That's awesome. I appreciate it. And, all right, let's bring up our main speaker. You ready to rock, John?
Let's do it.
Okay, so I want to introduce to you John Israel. John and I never really have gotten a chance to get to know each other that well yet personally, but we have a very common background. We both actually really met, I think, initially through Cutco. Many of you might know the knife company that recruits all the college students. So I had a 12-year career with them. John also had a career over 15 years, I think it was, with Cutco. He was much better as a salesperson than I was. I went into management as quickly as I could, and John really became a legend in Cutco on the sales side. And built he's a Hall of Famer in that world, if that means anything to you. So he started in that when he was 19. He became one of the top salespeople in the history of the company. And then after some burnout, I guess he might talk about this, he started a social experiment around human connection and gratitude, and it became a worldwide movement, including a book, a TEDx talk, and that title was called the Mr. Thank You Project. And so that's what you're going to be hearing about here today. He's been featured on ABC News, Fox News, Good Morning America. He's had global clients all over the world: Square, Salesforce, Farmers Insurance, many, many others. Currently, John lives in Dallas, Texas, with his wife, 4 children, 2 cats, 3 dogs, and 66 chickens, which is pretty impressive, I must say. So he's gonna talk with us about gratitude, making that your competitive advantage. Let's bring him up, Mr. John Israel. You got your mic? You're good?
Yeah, we're good. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, good morning. Great. Can you guys see the screen over there? All right, so we're going to do some, we're going to be swinging some intention over there a little bit today. But first of all, I'm just grateful to be here today. Last week, I'm watching this thing. I'm like, there's no way this is happening. It's like coming for Tampa. And so I'm really grateful for the resilience of this community and really especially real estate, because people need to live somewhere. And so I know whether you're directly a real estate agent or you are supporting real estate agents, you guys are very involved with support of the hurricane. So appreciate what you guys do. So I'm curious, just by show of hands, how many of you went to college specifically for what you're doing today? Any? No, not a lot. Okay, by the way, I'm right there with you. How many of you went to college in some way, shape, or form, went to school after high school? All right, great. So just like you, so my degree is in kinesiology. So for all intents and purposes, I was going to be a physical therapist or a chiropractor, but I got into sales. And I didn't get into sales because I love business or anything like that, or I have a knack for it. My parents fell in hard financial times when I was a kid. And the question really becomes, why do any of us get into the career path that we're in? And ultimately, it's because in some way, shape, or form, we think our career is going to help us be happy and successful. And so for me, that actually began when I was 19, and I was searching for my first job. And it really came because I was, I'm a kid who I wanted to have a positive impact in the world. I wanted to do something important. And so I got a job selling Cutco knives house to house for summer work. So that's initially where Don and I met many moons ago. And what's really funny is this was so out of my comfort zone to be in sales. And I remember not knowing what to do, and I went to training, and my manager, his name was Blair, he's my first real mentor, and he said, John, you have to understand this. Sales is very simple. It's all about building relationships. And when you ask good questions and listen, people teach you how to build a relationship. When you ask good questions and listen, people teach you how to build a relationship. And so I went out to one of my first presentations with this woman named Cynthia, and I'll never forget this appointment because I walk into her house, and her house smelled like hospitality. You guys know what I'm talking about? Like, it always smells like baked goods.
some people's houses. And so she was actually baking something when I got in there. And I go in there and start to meet Cynthia. And she's this amazing woman. She's a single mother who had 2 boys that she had raised her entire life by themselves, or by herself. She'd raised them. And they were just graduating college, moving out of the house, starting their own lives. She was a nurse. She worked crazy hours. She was a seamstress. She had a pet parrot named Steve. You might be wondering, why do I know all these things about Cynthia? Because I asked a lot of questions, and she taught me how to build a relationship. So 30 minutes go by, and Cynthia decides to buy a modest-sized set of Cutco knives, which was great. And then a pie comes out of the oven, and we sit down and we eat pie together. And then as I'm leaving the house, she gives me a hug. And I remember getting into my car, driving away thinking, if this is sales, I want to be in sales forever. Is this what it's like? Just everyone's super nice, baking you pies when you come over. Like, this is great. So a couple days later, I'm at my Cutco office, and I'm making my phone calls, and then my phone rings. So I answer it, and it's Cynthia. And I say, hey, Cynthia, how are you? But she's not as excited to talk to me. And she says, John, I hate to do this, but I need you to cancel my order. And I was shocked, because at this moment, no one had ever canceled anything on me before. And everybody in this room knows exactly what that phone call is like. It might be that buyer that you've been showing properties for years, or someone that you've been recruiting and they're finally ready to onboard, and last minute they send you the email, hey, I decided to go somewhere else. Everybody in here knows what it's like to lose an important relationship, because it feels like death. And not death in the literal sense, but death in the possibilities, in the future of what you saw with this relationship. And this is the first time it had ever happened in my business career, so I didn't know how to handle it. But this moment brought forth the most important question that I asked myself in that day, which became really my body of work over the next coming years, which is this question, which is, why do good clients leave? Why do good people leave, and how can we prevent it? Key word there is good clients. We don't need to keep everybody, right? You guys agree with that? Not every person you ever work with, not every person that you ever do a deal with, do you need to keep them forever. That's totally fine. But the good ones, right? Those are the ones that we want to anchor and keep for the rest of our career. So how do we do that? That's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm in my Cutco office, and I hang up the phone, call Cutco, cancel the order, but now I'm in a funk. My manager, Blair, walks in. He sees me, and he says, John, what's going on? And I said, Blair, you won't believe it. This lady buys a set of Cutco a couple days ago and then calls me and cancels her order. Can you believe that? And I'm like this irate teenager. And he looks at me with a level of wisdom, because if you've been in business for any length of time, you do realize that this does happen. Yes? Like, you cannot avoid it. You're going to lose important and valuable relationships, but this is the first one. So he says, well, John, I'm curious. Have you ever presented to a person who just didn't buy? And I said, well, yeah, that happens all the time. He says, well, then why can't you think of this experience like one of those? And I thought about it, and I said, you know, Blair, I'm not actually upset that I lost the sale. I'm upset that I lost the relationship. Like, it was this connection that I got to have with this person that I don't feel I get to have anymore. Because isn't that awkward? How do you keep a relationship after someone cancels a transaction? And I said, because honestly, Blair, she was a pretty amazing human being. I mean, she was a single mother who raised 2 kids by herself. She was a nurse. She worked crazy hours. She was a seamstress. She had a pet parrot named Steve. I said, Blair, she baked me a pie. He says, wow, she sounds like a pretty amazing person. Maybe you should tell her that. I said, tell her that? How would you like me to do that? He says, well, why don't you write her a thank you card? And I said, Blair, were you listening to anything I just said? This lady just canceled her order. What do I possibly have to be grateful for? And he harnessed all of his sales wisdom in that moment and looks at me and simply says, there is always something to be grateful for as long as you're looking for it. And then he walks out of the room. I'm still upset. So I leave. I drive home. Still with my parents at the time. I walk in. My mom's got a desk right by the door, and she has thank you cards sitting on her desk, as all moms do. And I reluctantly grab one. I march into my room. I sit down. I lay this thank you card on my desk, and I think, there's always something to be grateful for, as long as you're looking for it. And it took me a few minutes, but this is eventually what came out. And I said, Dear Cynthia, I just wanted to reach out and say thank you so much for your time the other day. Thank you for taking an hour out of your day to sit down with a young college kid who was simply trying to sell you a set of really expensive kitchen knives. And while I know right now is not the time for you to be buying a set of Cutco, I just wanted to let you know it was wonderful to meet you as a person. I loved hearing the stories of what it was like to be you, raising your boys by yourself, and all the things that you're still able to do with your extra time. And I just want to let you know, I think you're a superwoman. If anything changes in the future, here's my cell phone number. Sincerely, Cutco John. Sent everything Cutco John back then. Two things happen. Instantly, I feel better. That anger, resentment, upset disappears the moment I drop the letter in the mailbox. The second thing that happens is actually 2 years later. I'm sitting in my college apartment, and I'm working on some homework, and then my phone rings. So I answer it. And there's this really excited woman on the other line, and all I hear is this Cutco John? And I said, yes, this is Cutco John. Who's this? She says, well, you probably don't remember me, but my name is Cynthia, and I tried to buy some knives from you a few years ago, but I had to cancel my order. But I'm actually ready to buy now, and I was wondering if you can still help me. I said, oh my gosh, of course I remember you, Cynthia. Like, what do you need? How can I help? She says, okay, I've got my catalog. I hope you're ready. And she starts listing off everything she wants. And she keeps going and going and going. This is about to be one of the largest orders of my entire career. And I'm shocked. We wrap everything up, and there's this moment of silence at the end of the phone call. And Cynthia asks me, she says, John, do you know why I'm calling you right now? And I said, I have no idea, but I'm extremely glad that you did. She says, well, all those years ago when I had to cancel my order, what I couldn't tell you at the time is that I had just found out that I was extremely sick. And I was so sick that I had to leave my job. And I was so sick that my boys who moved out of the house had to move back into the house to take care of me while I went through treatment. And well, the last thing I wanted to do was to cancel my order. I just had no other choice. And I felt terrible about it. And then I got your letter in the mail. And what I saw was you valued me as a human being more than just a customer. And I told myself, when I get healthy one day, I'm going to call this kid, and I'm going to buy every damn knife he's selling. Uncommon. Thanks. Thanks. Uncommon loyalty. What does it take inside of a relationship that somebody doesn't just come back to you when they can remember you, when they can find your business card, but they're committed to use you and only you anytime the thought or idea of your service comes up? And when you're in business long enough, you know how hard it is to pour into relationships and then have them turn away and start working with a competitor. And we've all been in business long enough to realize that there's different types of loyalty that we're going to interact with. And we're going to walk through those today. So the first one, I'm going to read these because they're a little small in the print. The first one, which I'm sure everyone here knows, is called contractual loyalty. Contractual loyalty. This is based on a signed agreement. It's for a period of time. And it is the lowest form of loyalty. Does everyone here know what contractual loyalty feels like? Like, you cannot wait for this contract to be done, for this relationship to be over. Like, they'll keep your loyalty for a period of time, but they're not going to get your referrals, right? That's never going to happen. Well, the second type is what we call habitual loyalty. This is actually what most of us create in our business. Habitual loyalty is based on regularity of doing business together. It is moderately strong and lasts until a competitor intrigues a client away, right? We might have clients that just come to us consistently because we're convenient, they know us, they've seen us. But the moment someone's a little faster, a little cheaper, or a little closer, we typically can lose that client. Now, the third type is what we call emotional loyalty. This is based on positive emotional experiences. This is the strongest form of loyalty, and it will last until services are no longer needed. You know, the best example I think of this, I have a client in Westlake Village, California, and she's a real estate broker, been doing this for about 35 years. She has multiple clients that have put it in their will that after they pass away, if the children sell the estate, they have to use her as the realtor. I know some of you guys are thinking, like, can we do that? Like, is that legal? But no, think about that. Did that experience happen because of one transaction? One conversation? No, that is how she showed up over time in that relationship, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. How do we become irreplaceable with our most important relationships? So the lens in which we're going to talk about this is through a story of a book that I wrote called The Mr. Thank You Project. And so just to fast forward a little bit in my career, so I started a strategic gifting company called Mr. Thank You. And we started this business at the perfect time to start anything in real estate, which was 2009. Was anyone here in real estate in 2009, by the way? A handful of you? Okay, great. You guys should get like a pin, right? Like I survived 2009. That was a rough time. Different, but not too dissimilar from what we're going through right now. It was just a different, tough time. And it was very difficult to be in real estate, but we slogged through. We made it for a couple of years, and then eventually by 2014, 2015, we were pretty profitable. By 2016, I had everything on paper I ever said I wanted. I was married. We bought our first house. We had our first child. But I was over it. I was overworked, overwhelmed, and so unhappy. I was ready to walk away from all of it. Everything I had spent my career building. And I'll never forget this day. I come home, and my wife is sitting on our couch, and she's nursing our infant son in one hand, and she's handwriting thank you cards in her other hand to the people who had supported her during her pregnancy. And it was one of the most beautiful things that I'd ever seen, and I couldn't even appreciate it because I was so stressed and overwhelmed with my job, I couldn't be present in that moment. And I don't know how else to explain it, but I believe that God spoke to me through my wife that day, and I got a really clear message, which was, if you can't appreciate what you have now, who's to say you'll be any happier when you finally get what you say you want? If you can't appreciate what you have now, who's to say you'll be any happier when you finally get what you say you want, when you build the team the way you want, when the market shifts and changes the way you want? If you can't appreciate what you have now, who's to say it's going to be any different later? I had a problem. Now, it was a problem I didn't have a name for at the time, but I do now, and that problem is called perpetual discontentment. Perpetual discontentment, which is the never-ending feeling that what is not enough. And I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand if you also suffer from perpetual discontentment, because I find just about every business person I meet typically does. But it's not always a bad thing, right? It's not always a bad thing to not be satisfied with what you have, because if you're never fully satisfied, what are you going to do? You're going to keep going. You're going to work harder. You're going to get better at your systems, your processes, your recruiting, your training, all at the end benefit your user, the customer. But if we're not careful and this gets out of hand, perpetual discontentment will also prevent us from ever truly enjoying this life we're working so hard to create. And so I knew something needed to change, because at this moment, my two greatest fears were brought up. Number one is that I would die alone, because who wants to be married to a miserable grump who complains all the time? And that was me. Two is that I might need to leave my job, because I was so stressed and overwhelmed, it was affecting everything that actually mattered to me. But before I did that, I decided to get some help. So I reached out to some friends, shared what I was going through. One friend referred me to his business coach, so I called this guy. And this is an interesting coach, and he is asking me questions no one had ever asked me before. And the first one he said is, John, what's your why? Why are you here? Why are you running this business? And frankly, I didn't have a good answer, because the only answer I had at that time was purpose of my business was to make as much money as humanly possible. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but if somebody's primary why in their business is to make as much money as humanly possible, do you think their clients can feel that? Have any of you been on the other side of a transaction from an agent or somebody whose primary purpose was purely to make as much money as humanly possible? Is that a fun relationship to be in? Absolutely not. So my coach says, hey, John, here's the beautiful thing. You get to choose your why. So if you wanted to be driven by something, what would you choose? So I thought about it. We're a gifting agency. And so this is what we came up with. Our mission at Mr. Thank You is to elevate the level of gratitude on the planet. And I remember writing that down and getting like the goosies, like the goosebumps, like, oh, like that's it. That's our mission. But then I had a problem. And that problem showed up inside of a quote that my coach shared with me at the time by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And here's what he says. Excuse me, I cannot hear what you are saying because who you are speaks so loudly. Now, what I love and simultaneously don't love about that quote is that it challenges us to be consistent with our words. it challenges us to not just say, hey, this is what I care about. This is our values. These are our values. Look, we even put them on our business cards, painted it on the wall, but to actually prove it in our behavior. The problem was, if you asked 100 people who knew John Israel at that time and said, what do you know about this guy? They'd probably say some nice things like driven or successful. But you know what they wouldn't say? They wouldn't say grateful. They wouldn't say appreciative, and they certainly would not say happy to describe me. So how can that be? How can I be this guy who says he's about elevating gratitude on the planet, but yet I don't embody it in my life at all? So my coach says, this is really simple, John. We just need to help you find a keystone habit around gratitude, something that you can do every day to put yourself in a grateful state. What's a moment, what's a memory, an experience that you remember experiencing gratitude in its purest form? When I thought about two things. I thought, number one, about Cynthia and that story all those years ago when I was selling Cutco. And then I thought about that moment when I came home and I saw my wife nursing our infant son and handwriting thank you cards. And I thought, well, what if I do that? Not the nursing part, but the handwritten card part. What if I made a commitment around handwritten cards every single day for an entire year, and that became the genesis of what is now known as the Mr. Thank You Project. So there were 4 rules to this project, so I'll break them down for you. So rule number 1 is I made a commitment to handwrite 5 thank you cards every single day for 365 consecutive days. Had to be handwritten, couldn't be a text or a video. Rule number 2, every day resets at 0. Okay, so this means I can't skip 3 days and then write 20 cards in a day, because if it's a habit, you do it every day no matter what. Third rule, I could write a max of 3 cards per any one person. Now, this is because I know myself, and if I couldn't think of somebody to write a card to, I might write the 75th thank you card to my mother, which, who knows, maybe she would have appreciated that. Are there any mothers here who would appreciate more gratitude from your children? Okay. But I also thought if they kept going to the same people, they would lose their significance and their impact. Now, the final rule was an interesting one, and this is around accountability. So my coach asked me, he says, John, I love this idea, but where's the accountability? What happens if you miss a day? I thought I had a good answer. I said, okay, for every day that I miss, I'm going to donate $100 to charity. Felt pretty good about that. And he looks at me and says, add a 0. And I said, excuse me? you want me to donate $1,000 to charity every day that I don't write 5 thank you cards? Does anyone else here think that's a little absurd, by the way? Yeah, so he says, well, John, I don't want you to have to donate any money, but let me ask you this. How likely is it you're going to donate $100 or several $100s to charities this year anyways? I said, yeah, we kind of do that in our business and with our tithing and all that. He says, okay, then you're giving yourself a way out. If what's at stake every day is $1,000, how many days are you going to miss? That is the correct answer. The answer was 0. That's what I said. He said, then what would you like to do? So the fourth and final rule of the Mr. Thank You Project was $1,000 to charity for any and every day that I missed writing my 5 cards. And when you do the math on this, 5 cards times 365 days is 1,825 letters of appreciation in 1 year's time. You don't need to know everything that happened to realize that if you made a commitment like that to express love, gratitude, and appreciation every day, multiple times a day to different people, you would be a different person by the end of that year. So I can't show you everything that happened, but I want to pull out the most relevant nuggets for your business, especially with what we're going through right now, with the economy, with the hurricane, with everything going on. And here's what we're going to cover. Number 1 is how do we connect in a noisy, distracted, and apathetic world? You guys ever find that? Sometimes it's just hard to connect with people because they're not connectable. How do we do that? Number 2 is how do we find resilience through relationships during hard times? Right? A lot of you guys have already expressed that, right? That one of the things that happens inside of a challenge or a hurricane or anything devastating is people connect at a deeper level. And third is how do we restore important relationships that maybe have been damaged in the past? So let's dive in. So I want to fast forward a little bit to day 3 of the project. So at this time, I lived in Southern California, and we were mid-escrow buying a house in Dallas, Texas. So I go to the airport, and the interesting thing I love about the airport is because people ask, like, John, I love this idea, but who are you writing all your cards to? Like, I don't even know 1,825 people I'd possibly sit down and write a card to. And it's an interesting question. What you would learn is that gratitude is not a natural state for us to be in. Gratitude and happiness are very distinct for that reason. You don't need to teach a child how to be happy, but you do need to teach them how to be grateful. Because grateful is a reflective state. Our natural state is called a negative bias, which is to look for the threats, to look for what's wrong, to look for the problem before we notice what's right. From our cavemen and cavewomen days, that's what we were built into our DNA, to look for the tiger behind the rock or any of that kind of stuff. But now here we are in modern day America, not worrying about saber-toothed tigers, but yet we're so prone to looking for the threat automatically. I mean, this makes sense, right? Like you wake up in the morning, you pick up your phone, you look at it, and here's what happens. Here's everything that happened badly in the world today. Good luck at work. Don't bring any of this with you. Don't be affected by any of this. But it's hard. So this interesting thing about this project was, for the first time in my life, I had to consciously go through every day asking this question: who is doing something good that I can appreciate? That is a crazy state to be in every moment of the day. So I get to the airport, and the first people I see are the pilots on my plane sitting at the Chick-fil-A having breakfast. And I think, oh my gosh, that's who I should thank today. I mean, every time during takeoff, I do a little prayer for safe travel. And you know what? They've delivered like 100% of the time. And I thought, man, but I've never thanked the pilots on my plane. Let's do that today. But then I realized I have a problem, which is I don't know these guys. We've never met. How do you thank somebody that you don't even know you've never met before? It's actually not too dissimilar from answering this question. How do you connect with someone really well for the first time? We have this philosophy at Mr. Thank You, which is that great relationships aren't meant to be, they're made to be. Great relationships aren't meant to be, they're made to be. So we have to consciously try to make our relationships work. And many of us just kind of go through them as they come. But do we intentionally connect with people over what matters to them? So this is a little framework that I like to teach people of what helped me learn how to thank people during this project, but it's also the same for how to connect with people. We call this the rapid relatability formula. It's really simple. You remember it really easily. Story, significance, struggle. Story, significance, struggle. I'll show you how this breaks down. So I walk up to these pilots and I simply ask, hey, do you guys mind if I have a seat? And they say, sure. So I sit down with these pilots and I said, hey, I don't know what it's like to be you. I've never been a pilot. I'm just curious. What's your story? How did you get into this? How did you get into this industry? If I'm talking to a client, hey, tell me, how did you get to, are you from here originally? How did you get here? What happens is people, when they answer that question, they start to tell you about other things that matter to them inadvertently. About that they have a family, that they have a faith that they care about, that they have other things that are important to them. And those are really important to connect and understand someone at a deep level. Second question. Well, so first of all, they were telling me all sorts of things about what it's like to be a pilot. Most of them, both of them particularly, had wanted to do this since they were little kids. And then eventually when they got old enough, they went into the Air Force, and they did that for a couple of terms. And then they got out and said, well, hey, I love this. I want to keep doing this. So I got into commercial airlining. So these guys were essentially living their childhood dream. And I thought, that's pretty cool. Second question, significance. What do you love about what you do? What are you most excited about? If I'm recruiting somebody, I'm asking, hey, tell me about your top 3 goals over the next 5 years of your life. Because when people tell you what they're excited about, that's important if you're their leader or you're working with them to help make sure you can help them achieve what matters to them. So I simply ask, hey, what do you love about being a pilot? And they started telling me about all these benefits, the travels, the trips, the things they get to go on. And one guy says, you know, a lot of people brag about having the best corner office, but let me tell you, nobody has a better corner office than we do at 30,000 feet. I thought that's pretty cool. Third question, struggle. What's the hardest part about being a pilot? What's the most difficult thing about being you? And it was interesting because the energy changed in the conversation. And they started talking about the same thing, which is everything they miss back at home. Birthdays, anniversaries, special events. And then one of the pilots gets really excited and says, oh, no, not this year. This is the first time in 12 years that I get to be home for Christmas Day. My heart broke for these guys. How many of you right now have a greater appreciation for the pilots who fly your planes simply from hearing the answers to those 3 questions? Great. So what's preventing us from asking those questions of everybody that we meet? The clients that we connect with, the new people we're trying to onboard, our own family, people that we care about. Story, significance, struggle. So we board the plane, take off. 30 minutes go by, take my tray table down, lay my cards out. I didn't even have to think about it because the cards basically wrote themselves. And here's what they said. It said, dear pilot, I'm sure it's strange to receive a thank you card from a passenger, but as I was boarding the plane today, I was thinking about how much I'm going to miss my family on this trip. And then I realized this is what you do every day for your job. I can't imagine how many birthdays, anniversaries, or special events you've sacrificed for your work, not to mention the hundreds, if not thousands of hours you've spent in the cockpit training for your job because nobody becomes a pilot by accident. All of that to have some bad weather, a slightly bumpy landing, and then have people complain about it. So whether you hear it enough or not, I just want to say thank you on behalf of myself and everybody on our flight. Fold up the card. I wrote 2 very similar cards because there's 2 pilots in the flight. We land in the next destination. Pilots are still in the cockpit, so I get to physically hand them their cards. And they accept them awkwardly, as most strangers do, when you hand them a thank you card. And then I jump on another flight to do the exact same thing with 2 more pilots. Okay, so 2 flights, 4 different pilots, 4 different thank you cards. Now, I don't normally do this, but at the time, I only had my business stationery with me, which has my name, cell phone number, and email physically printed on the card. So this is what was crazy. Within 24 hours of landing in my destination, 3 out of those 4 pilots personally contacted me to say thank you for the card that they received. One went on to say, John, in my 20 years of flying, I have never received a thank you card from a passenger. And I thought, that's crazy. How is that even possible? These guys with such a big, significant, important job, and no one's even taken the time just to say thank you to them? I thought, geez, if that's the case for these guys with such a big, important job, what about everybody else in their careers, in their relationships, in their marriages? There's a huge appreciation deficit in the world. So how do you apply this, right? How do you bring this down to earth and put this in our business? And I think it's really simple. If you want to make meaningful connections, we have to practice something that I call the appreciation principle. So the appreciation principle looks like this. Curiosity is the precursor to appreciation. And appreciation is the birthplace of empathy. With empathy, we develop compassion. And when we have compassion, we have the ability to literally connect with anyone. Why was Mother Teresa able to do what she did in the world? Why was Martin Luther King able to have the impact he had? What did they have more than most people? They had compassion, not because of what they could get, but because they understood their job on planet Earth was to be of the highest level service to their fellow man. And I get who's in this room. You guys are the best of the best. You're the highest producers, whether you're an agent or whether you're a supporter of the magazine, and you know what it's like to be out there and grinding and working and tracking your stats and your metrics. And I don't care who you are. The more rejection you experience, we start to desensitize ourselves from relationships and what actually goes into building true, meaningful relationships. I'm not teaching you necessarily something new. I'm hopefully just reminding you of something you already knew. Okay, so that was day 3. You can imagine 362 more days of that. And I can't proclaim every day was as epic and prolific as day 3, but it was a really interesting year. One of the most profound things that I didn't expect came around a topic that is super relevant to our industry right now, which is what I call emotional resilience. And emotional resilience is about our ability to metabolize painful experiences into positive progress. And the example I'll give you is kind of silly, but I think it's going to make sense. So I'm a graduate of a small university in Washington State called Gonzaga University. Has anyone ever heard of Gonzaga? Some of you guys, okay. So we're mostly known for one thing. What are we known for? What is it? Basketball, yes. I did not play, but I'm a huge fan of the team, of course. And so this particular year, during the project in 2017, my team, the Gonzaga Bulldogs, make it for the first time in school history to the NCAA National Championship. This is a huge deal in school history. So it's Monday night. I'm at home. I'm on our couch. My kids got their little Gonzaga onesies on. We're watching the game. And we're winning most of the game until the last 90 seconds, and we lose to the UNC Tar Heels. And I'm not a huge sports guy. And I always thought it was interesting when they would show the videos of like a Super Bowl at the end. They would show the video of the winning teams downtown, then the losing team. And the winning team, it's like everyone's throwing confetti in the air, and then the losing team, like everyone's flipping over cars and lighting trash cans on fire. And I never understood it until that day, because it was so sad. My team, my baby, who I grew up all my adult life rooting for, lost the biggest game in the team's history. And it's 9 o'clock at night. My wife puts our kids to bed, and I go to my desk and I lay out my thank you cards because I hadn't written them yet for the day. And y'all, I couldn't do it. I couldn't harness an ounce of gratitude because I was so upset that my team lost the game. And it brought up one of the most important questions I ever had to learn the answer to during the project, which is, how do you be grateful when you don't feel like it? How do you be grateful when you don't feel like it? And so this is a great place to implement the definition of gratitude. The best one I've learned is from Dr. Robert Emmons out of UC Davis. Here's what he says. Gratitude is the emotion one feels when receiving a gift or experiencing something as a gift. So what does that mean? When someone gives you a gift unexpectedly, you didn't do anything for it, how does that feel? That joy, that excitement, that in essence is gratitude. The other part of this definition, though, is the experience of something as a gift. Well, what does that mean? Well, let me take you back to a moment that may not be one of your favorite moments in life, which is the first moment that you were madly in love, and then it ended, right? Maybe you were 12 years old, and it's like your first boyfriend or girlfriend, you were holding hands for 2 weeks, and you thought, I'm going to marry this person. And then it ended. How is that moment? It's like, Men are terrible, women are terrible, life is over. However, with time and perspective, we can look back on that previously painful experience and we can say, I'm actually really glad that happened. I'm really glad that happened because of all these things I learned about myself that I needed to learn that I couldn't have learned any other way. I'm so glad that that relationship ended because I wound up meeting someone eventually that I married and started a family with. So I'm actually really grateful that that relationship ended. So it brings up this interesting question, which is how long does it take us to feel gratitude from a previously painful experience? And the answer is as long as it takes you to find the gift. And in every life experience, there is a gift, but it is your job to find it. How many of you know that some of the greatest character qualities you possess have come from going through the hardest times of your life? Great. So why are you resisting it? Why are you looking at whatever's happening right now with the market or anything and saying this shouldn't have happened, it shouldn't be this way, the Fed shouldn't have done that, we shouldn't have this president? We can say all these things that shouldn't be right now, but where does that get us? What does it change? Nothing. What if you're going through exactly what you're going through for the reason that you can't learn this lesson any other way than by going through what you're going through to help you learn what you need to learn to become the person who you're eventually meant to be? What if this needs to happen? So it's 9 o'clock at night. I'm sitting at my desk. I'm still upset, but I'm racking my brain. Where's the gift? Where's the good? It was like a light bulb goes off, and I was like, oh my gosh. I didn't watch my team lose the national championship. You know what I just watched? I just watched arguably the best team in my school's history play the game of basketball. That deserves to be celebrated. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write a handwritten card to every player of the Gonzaga men's basketball team and the entire coaching staff. I told it up. It was about 35 people in total. So for the next 7 days, I spent hours every day scouring the internet for every player's specific games or contributions, what they did. Even the redshirts who didn't play that season to say, hey, championship teams are not being in the championship game. They've been in every practice that led up to it. So thank you for helping our team be the best in school history. And y'all, it was crazy because it wasn't months, weeks, or days. I'm talking minutes from upset, anger, this shouldn't be happening, to feeling pure and authentic joy. And I thought, man, how can we apply that to our business? So we actually implemented a strategy. So we have something that we pay attention to and track in our business called our attrition ratio. You guys know what an attrition ratio is? It's the percentage of clients that you originally signed a contract with that just fall out of contract, right? So we call that a cancellation. We have cancellations. You guys have cancellations. Anyone ever get a cancellation once in a while? How does that moment feel? It is awful, right? No matter what your industry is, we've all felt it. And so we get that. So one of the things that we did was we implemented a strategy. The moment we get a notice of cancellation, we send the client a thank you card. And we'd say, hey, dear client, we just want to say, we know now is not the time for you to be moving forward with us, but we just want to let you know it was so wonderful to get to meet you personally and professionally and hear about all these things that you care about in your life. And, while it's not the time for us to be moving forward together, we hope something changes in the future. If that happens, here's our direct line. Feel free to reach out to us. And we would send a handwritten card to every cancellation. Here was a stat that came back by the end of the year. We tracked this. 50% of every cancellation who received a thank you card came back and rebought within 6 months. Think about that. Money you don't lose is money that you make. And I want you to think about how many of you in here have ever had to cancel something in your life? And it might have been something significant or as small as having to return a shirt to the store. And we all know what that feeling is like, right? That little walk of shame. You're walking in the store, it's like, it doesn't fit. No one feels good canceling. How many of you have done that and then received a thank you card from the salesperson? Never do I see a hand raise. What if you did? What would that tell you about the individual and their quality? And here's the takeaway from that, which is ultimately results show skill, but how we handle problems shows character. Results show skill, but how we handle problems shows character. Nobody's going to have a perfect business. No one's going to bat 1,000. Everyone's going to have mistakes. Everyone's going to drop the ball. How do you handle that? That is going to dictate whether a client is going to decide to go with you again and again, not because you're perfect. So the capstone on this story is we kind of wrap up today. So 2 months go by. I forget to even do this whole thing with writing the cards to the team. And of all days, May 21st, my birthday, I'm out to dinner with my wife, and she has an envelope she pulls out from her purse, and she says, oh, by the way, this showed up for you in the mail today. And I look at it, and it's a letter from Gonzaga men's basketball. And I open it up, and inside is a handwritten card from Mark Few, the head coach of Gonzaga men's basketball, thanking me for every letter that I wrote the team. thanking me for being a loyal alumni and thanking me for showing up with something of hope during a challenging time. I don't know if you guys noticed, during the summer, the Olympics, Mark Few was one of the head coaches of the men's basketball team. This guy makes millions of dollars, and of everything he could do with his time, he chose to send some random guy, some alumni, a thank you card, and I can't tell you how much that means to me, and I never could have paid him to do it. And that's why I think this is such one of the lost arts of business. It's not just, hey, thanks for the referral, here's $25 to Starbucks. No, it is actually acknowledging the person for the impact that they had on your business and how much you care about the relationship. That is the power of a handwritten note. So, last thing we're going to do here, I'm just curious, how many of you, since we've been talking today, have thought of at least one person who deserves to hear thank you from you? Okay, great. All right, so here's what we're going to wrap with. How many of you guys noticed that we strategically placed thank you cards right in front of you? Any of you guys notice that? All right, if you have a thank you card in front of you, pick it up, hold it in the air, wave it around like you just don't care. Make sure you got it. Thank you for our friends at Lincoln Landing for supporting our pen. He's our pen sponsor today. So I'm going to give you just a couple quick minutes to write this note, and I'm going to give you some instruction because people often ask, hey, what goes into a really good thank you note? So I'm going to give you our framework. We call this the ABCs of a legendary thank you note. Okay, so ABCs. So attitude, behaviors, challenges. Attitude, focus on their character qualities, that they're loving, caring, patient. B stands for behaviors, which are the actions, the things that they do day in, day out that maybe often get unnoticed. C is challenges, which is what do they give up or overcome and still do what they do for you. You know, when I think back to the cards for the pilots, I think what made an impact on those cards is it wasn't just, hey, thanks for getting us to the destination safely. It was, no, hey, thanks for everything that you give up, that you sacrificed, and that you go through and still get us to the destination safely. That's the difference of what we call recognition and acknowledgement. So final tip here before you guys get into this, which is, so I had a friend who read my book a while back, and he said, hey, John, what I love about your book is that you take pictures of the cards you wrote, and I was really worried about my handwriting, and then I saw yours. And I said, I don't know where the compliment is. He says, no, well, what I mean is that the cards weren't perfect. They were, you scribbled a word out, or your lines weren't perfectly even. And that's what I needed to see, because I'm kind of a perfectionist, and so I needed to see the imperfection in what you wrote. That's my encouragement for you, is don't worry about poetry or perfect handwriting. Just write what's there for you to say. We'll give you a couple minutes. We'll wrap with this, and then we'll be done for the day. Oh, I'm going to put a QR code because everyone here has to have a QR code, right? You have a QR code? I have a QR code. This is actually specifically for a survey. We always love to survey our attendees from events to hear what did you take away, what did you like about today, any feedback you have for me. So you can scan that QR code and then type in the word thanks, and then it's going to give you a 30-second survey to take. So we can get some feedback from you. Also on that survey is a spot that says, you know, hey, if you're a part of organizations that you think would value this message, you can let us know. We can reach out to see if it's a relevant event we can come out and speak at and share this message. So if you have an event you're a part of or that you help support that you feel this message will be relevant, you can make a note on the survey. So I'll leave that up there. My only request as you're doing this is no talking. No talking, because people really need that silence to think through what they're going to write. So this is the last thing that we're going to do today, then we'll wrap. So go ahead and start now. I'm just going to point out, like, All right, give you about another minute or so on that. Another minute. No rush, by the way. If you need more than a minute, take as much time as you need, but give you about another minute. And then when you're done, you can go and scan the QR code up there, type in the word thanks, take the short survey, and then we'll wrap here shortly. All right, start wrapping up your thoughts. Start wrapping up your thoughts. Some of you are very intent. Appreciate that. All right, final thoughts as we wrap up here today. I would like to wrap by saying thank you for doing that, because you didn't have to. No one made you do it. And I think that's the impact of this, is that it actually comes from you. It's not an obligation. And that's really what gratitude has become in our life. It's this obligation. Oh, I should write down my 3 things I'm grateful for. I should appreciate the people, send handwritten cards, or thank more people. But it doesn't matter unless it's truly coming from you, from your heart, expecting nothing in return. So what it reminds me of is when I was, during the project, about 3 months in, I get a call from my best friend, Nick. Nick was the best man at my wedding. And unfortunately, Nick was calling to tell me that his dad had just passed away, which is awful news. We were very close. What made it worse was I had written Nick's dad a thank you card during the project, and I hadn't sent it yet. It was sitting on my desk while Nick told me the news. And while I'm not happy that that happened, I'm grateful for the lesson, which is the urgency of what you just did. Because one of the greatest fallacies in relationships is the assumption that they'll be there tomorrow. And we never know when the last time will be that we'll get to thank somebody who's positively impacted our life. So my challenge to you from today forward is to do this every day for 30 days. A 30-day challenge, keep it really simple. And we actually made a PDF for you. If you took the survey, we're going to email you the PDF of the 30-day challenge. If you haven't, I'll put the QR code back up here in a second, or a different one. And I want to end how we started, which is talking about why do we get into the work that we're in. And I think for a lot of us, we get into our work because ultimately we think our work is going to make us happy and fulfilled. Well, if that's the case, what I have to say is if fulfillment is the finish line, gratitude is the starting line. Because if you can learn to appreciate what you have now, you actually become somebody who is happier when you finally get what you say you want. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate you guys having me here. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you, John. This was awesome, man. It was definitely a treat to have you here. I don't know if you guys believe this, but I believe everything happens for a reason. And Eric said to me earlier that this is kind of like the perfect message for the timing of what's happening right now in our community, right? And you think about all the devastation that we've gone through over the last 3 weeks. There's a lot of families hurting. In my role, having the ability to see as many agents that I have in my social media feeds and everything, it's heartbreaking to see the amount of homes that people have lost and clients that have lost their homes and all of the things, right, that are going on in our community. So, I thought you were here sent today for a reason, and I hope that you guys can take this message and do something special with it and really be the light that I think our community definitely needs at this time. And so there's a lot of power in what that message was. I wrote that down is like he mentioned the point of what is the gift in the life experiences that we have. So what is that gift of this crazy couple of weeks that we've had with all these storms and the devastation that's occurred from it and the impact it's had on us emotionally, personally, and professionally? There is a gift in that. And if we can identify it, it really can make an impact, I think, on what this community needs right now. So I applaud you guys for being here today. I'm glad you were able to make it. I know it's not always easy, especially this time, but with everything going on and the chaos that you guys made the decision to show up today. So I appreciate that and appreciate all your support, of course, especially all of you partners that support everything that we do with Real Producers. I couldn't be more grateful, even if I don't show it as much as I probably should. So that was a good reminder for me as well, John. I appreciate it. One thing that you guys have on your way out there is, would you guys like to read John's book? So we wanted to give everybody here a free gift on your way out. So the Mr. Thank You Project book is on the tables back there. Feel free to grab them on your way out. Thank you to John, of course, for your contribution. And this book is really on behalf of all of our sponsors that support our platform that you heard from earlier. So thank them, too, when you get a chance to see them and shake their hand, because those books were provided by them as well. And last thing I'll say is if you are available, the QR codes are on their tables. On November 4th, we have our golf tournament coming up. So if you love to play, and this might be a way for hopefully some of us to get back to some normalcy again in our community. If you want to be a part of a foursome or put a team together, you can do that right through that QR code. Invite some of your favorite agents to play with you, and then you can secure that right through that QR code right there. We have one more panel left this year, and then we'll have a whole new set of these for next year, and that is next November, third Thursday. I want to say it's the 21st off the top of my head, but it's on building wealth through real estate. So we have a couple of top panelists that'll be here to share with you. One of them is in the room right now. Mr. Tim Diesel in the back is going to be on this panelist talking about commercial investing. We have Beth Silverman talking about short-term rental investing and some other forms of investing. And then we also have Jeffrey Borum talking about flipping, house flipping, and building up revenue through that model as well. So we have a couple great panelists in store for you next month. We hope to see you there. Go out there and make somebody's day today with some gratitude, okay? We'll talk to you later. Bye.